from 1975 till 2020, there was actually no bloodshed on the border at all. There's an equal reality, the rise of India. The rise may be different, the time frame may be different, the quantitatively or qualitatively they may not be identical. I'm the stronger, fastest growing large economy of the world today. So those are realities that have to be factored in anybody's calculation, not just in China's. For us, Russia is a source of stability. It is not automatic that if a country is perceived a certain way in the West, that logic would extend to the East. The perception in the East could be very different.
So I'm going to ask you about relations with China. We've got quite a few things to get through, but can you give us a quick update on progress on the Himalayan border dispute? But then a slightly bigger question, which is, do you believe that China can accept India as a peer in its Sino-centric view of the world? Does it matter?
Well, let me start with the first part of it, which is what's happening at the border. As you know, we had a border dispute pretty much from the time when they had the revolution and we got our independence. It took about a decade for this to really come out. Initially they were a bit evasive about it. Their maps depicted the border in terms of their claims, and they avoided, engagement in the initial years. But by the second half of the 1950s, it was very clear to us that we had a very serious issue on our hands. And then in 1962, we had a border conflict, and they got the better of it. Now, from 1962, in fact, before the conflict, we had withdrawn our ambassador, and it was only in 1976 that we resumed ambassadorial relations. It took another decade, really, for a Prime Minister of India to go to China and sit down and discuss the relationship with them. In the 1990s, both countries made an effort to discuss the border, but stabilize the border while it was under discussion. And the arrangements we arrived at in the early 90s, in 93 and 96 specifically, lasted really till 2020. There were very specific arrangements about not bringing a large number of troops to the border, and then there were further agreements about what happens when patrols interact with each other. So from 1975 till 2020, there was actually no bloodshed on the border at all. But then we saw in 2020, for whatever reason, the Chinese did not continue to adhere to the agreement, and we had a big movement of troops to the line of actual control, and eventually there was a clash. Quite a few soldiers died. And what that has done is it has really vitiated the relationship. It has vitiated the relationship, one, in terms of bringing back memories of a conflict and of sharp differences. But it has also raised questions about a neighbor. When you say, when you have an agreement, it's important that agreements are kept to. And when that doesn't happen, that too has consequences in terms of credibility and trust.
So you're making some progress in the talks?
The talks there are places where, because we responded again by moving troops in very large numbers. So what happened was we ended up with a number of points where there is very close-up deployment of troops, which is fundamentally dangerous.
Yeah.
And our efforts since 2020, since September, I met Foreign Minister Wang Yi in Moscow in September of 2020, and we agreed, okay, let's find a way by which both of us go back to our traditional bases, so that we don't have that very close-up deployment and all the frictions that arise from it. Now, since September 2020, we have solved a number of these situations, but there are some which are still under discussion. Okay. So this is still a discussion going on.
So what about the bigger question?
Now the bigger question, there is a certain reality, which is the rise of China. There's an equal reality, the rise of India. The rise may be different, the time frame may be different, the quantitatively or qualitatively they may not be identical. But the fact is, as two countries who are really proximate neighbors, who are the two oldest civilizations of the world, who have survived as nation states, who are in a way exceptional nation states because they are civilizational ones. I think there are realities that need to be recognized, and perhaps each one of us has some tradition of how we look at the world, but traditions at the end of the day also have to take into account contemporary realities. I mean, I am today the fifth largest economy. I am the largest in terms of population. The impact that India would make, I'm the stronger, fastest growing large economy of the world today. So those are realities that have to be factored in anybody's calculation, not just in China's. For us, Russia is a source of stability. Russia is not a revisionist power east of Russia.
It is west, though.
That might be your experience, or
I don't think I'm just wearing a Western hat on that.
No, but the contrast I would mark. But it is not automatic that if a country is perceived a certain way in the West, that logic would extend to the East. The perception in the East could be very different. In fact, it is very different. So I think when we approach Russia, because I'll come to the current situation, when we approach Russia, I think those 70 odd years of history and of working together and of what we call the steadiness is very much a factor in our minds. Now, when you then come to the Ukraine situation and what you asked me, look, I follow obviously and understand and analyze the position which European countries and Western countries have broadly taken in regard to Ukraine. But if we now make it a matter of, let us say, principle, which often is the case in many debates, my first experience of international relations when I became independent was I got attacked by Pakistan, and nobody condemned it. In fact, it went to the UN Security Council, and thanks to the United Kingdom, what began as a problem called, the aggression on Jammu and Kashmir, it ended up as the India-Pakistan question. So we have learned the hard way that people speak of principles. I don't say they are irrelevant or I wouldn't be cynical about it, but they are tempered by interests. And in this particular case, we have a very powerful interest to keep our relationship with Russia going. When it comes to the purchase of oil, just imagine for the moment, had we not bought oil from Russia, I think the global oil prices would have gone higher, because we would have gone into the same market, to the same suppliers that Europe would have done. And frankly, as we discovered, Europe would have outpriced us. We saw that in the LNG markets, where actually many supplies which were traditionally coming into Asia got diverted to Europe. And in fact, at least India was a big enough country to command some respect in the markets, but there were much smaller countries who didn't even get responses to their tender inquiries because the LNG suppliers were no longer interested in dealing with them. They had bigger fish to fry. So we've actually softened the oil markets and the gas markets through our purchase policies. We have, as a consequence, actually managed global inflation. So frankly, people should be saying
You'll be
thank
doing
you.
a service.
Yes, absolutely. I'm waiting for the thank you.